students, namaste and very warm welcome to yet another session of our class 10 ICSE biology one-shot series. This is Ambika, your biology master teacher, right here on the super amazing platform of Vedantu. Well guys, let me remind you that ICSE one-shot series is it's been happening for quite a while now, and today we are going to be discussing the chapter the circulatory system in one shot. Okay, so let us get started without wasting any time, and I have a positive quote for you which is right here. Don't dream of winning, train for it. Okay, so I think it's simply said and yet really beautifully put across. The idea has been conveyed. Okay, so today we are going to be learning, or rather revising, about all of these, which means about blood groups, mechanism of blood clotting, heart, all about the blood vessels and valves, the conduction system, structure of the heart, working of the heart, which is double circulation, and then we'll also just talk about heartbeat, pulse, the portal system, hepatic portal system particularly, and also the lymphatic system. Okay, so of course, let's keep in mind that this is a discussion of the entire chapter in one shot. So remember children, one shot series is intended for a very quick revision, especially to help you on the eve of the exam or during your study holidays when you're like trying to look at something for a very quick solution before you try to answer practice questions and all of that. If at all you haven't touched this topic till date, which I hope you haven't taken the risk of until now, if at all you're in that kind of a position, don't worry. This is not the series that you have to be looking at right now. Perhaps you have to have a look at our main playlist where we've discussed everything in detail. Okay, so let's move ahead. Let us talk about the three major units of the circulatory system. What are they? The fluid component, which is of course blood. Okay, starting with the blood, and then the heart, which is our main circulatory organ, and we have the blood vessels, which help the heart transport blood to the different parts of the body and bring back blood from the different parts of the body. Right, guys? Okay, so let's start with blood. Blood, we know it's a fluid connective tissue. It's a type of tissue. It's a fluid connective tissue, performs several important functions in the body, like a transport of nutrients, transport of gases, and a lot more. Okay, so what are the major components of blood? Well, we know that the blood has got a fluid component to it, which is called the plasma. Approximately 55% of our blood is comprised of the plasma. And apart from it, we also have what we call the cellular components, the cellular elements, or corpuscles, blood corpuscles as we may also call it. They are the platelets, the red blood cells, and the white blood cells. Okay, so let us have a look at them. This is what you would see the components of blood to be like when you pass a tiny tube of blood in a centrifugation procedure. Okay, when you just rotate it under very high speed, at a very high speed, the blood components, the solid and the liquid components of blood, would separate out this way. Plasma is the fluid part, as we've seen, and it contains the water, inorganic salts, proteins, and a lot more. Okay, proteins in the sense like albumin, globulin, fibrinogen, and all of those. It also helps in transport of gases, nutrients. It regulates body heat, maintains blood pH, and a lot more. Okay, these are the major functions of the blood plasma. Talking about the formed elements, or the cellular elements of our blood, which together make up about 45% of the entire blood. Okay, so these are the formed elements, which are the erythrocytes or RBCs, which help in oxygen transport because they contain hemoglobin. Okay, the pigment hemoglobin. Then comes leukocytes, which are the white blood cells. There are 5 major types of them, which are the neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, and there are also lymphocytes and monocytes. They majorly help in defense and immunity. The leukocytes. Always remember children, erythro means red and leuco stands for white. Okay, and then comes the platelets or the thrombocytes. Let me just write that name also here for you. Thrombocytes, which majorly help in blood clotting. So whenever there is an event of basically something like a wound or something like that. It's the platelets or the thrombocytes which play a major function in that. So how exactly does the mechanism of blood clotting work? Of course, there is a list of steps. There is a cascade of reactions that occur here, but majorly we need to know these three steps. Simply put across to you, this is how it works. First of all, there is a damaged blood vessel. When you have a wound, when you get cut, of course, the skin gets cut here, and as a result, the underlying blood vessels may get damaged, right? So an injury to the vessel, to the blood vessel, may trigger the release of what we call clotting factors. Okay, triggers the release of clotting factors. Now, these clotting factors, what they do is they activate and otherwise a usually inactive substance which is called prothrombin. They activate prothrombin to an active form which is called thrombin. Okay, and this thrombin in turn, it activates another substance which is called fibrinogen, which is normally soluble into an insoluble substance called fibrin. And these fibrin strands, along with the RBCs and platelets, they together form a mesh-like structure, forming an insoluble blood clot so that further loss of blood wouldn't occur. Okay, these are steps 1, 2, and 3 of blood clotting. Of course, we've discussed all this well in detail in our major playlist. As I told you, you can check that out in case you want to know more about this. Okay, so let's move ahead now, talking about the ABO blood grouping system. Okay, ABO blood grouping system, of course, is the most popularly known blood grouping system. We all belong to one of these four groups: A, B, AB, or O. But what is it? What does A, B, AB, and O stand for? Okay, so mainly the blood groups are named after the kind of antigens which are present on the red blood cells. For example, a person who belongs to A blood group is said to belong to that group because his or her RBCs have got the A antigen on the surface of their RBCs. Okay? Now, likewise, a B blood group person has got B antigens. Likewise, an AB blood group person would have A and B antigens, and so on. And what about the O blood group, which is like the fourth possibility? Like in my case, because I belong to O blood group, there wouldn't be any antigens on my red blood cells. Literally, it would be as smooth as the letter O. Okay, as in no A and B antigens on the surface. That's the easiest way of remembering it. No antigens on the surface of O blood group, both A and B antigens in the case of AB blood group. What about the antibodies? Now, antibodies in the blood plasma are those substances which would help in identifying something as a foreign substance. So obviously, naturally, keep in mind that whatever you naturally have in your body, it shouldn't be recognized by your own body as a foreign substance, right? So antibodies in the plasma of an A blood group person, it would contain anti-B antibodies, because if at all this person had anti-A antibodies, that would act against the person's own antigens, right? Completely makes sense. So anti-B antibodies here. Then in the case of blood group B, there would be the opposite, anti-A antibodies. In the case of AB blood group, because they've got both A and B antigens, they wouldn't have any of these antibodies in the blood plasma. What about in my case or other O blood group people's case? We would have both A and B antigens, anti-A antibodies and anti-B antibodies in our blood plasma. Okay, whereas in AB group, no antibodies at all, because there are both the antigens. Keep this in mind. Antigens on RBC, antibodies on the in the plasma. Okay, so just for you to also remember that RH is also an inherited protein which is found on the surface of the red blood cells. So RH positive people are those who have this protein. RH negative people are those who don't have this protein. Okay, now this is all about blood group compatibility, just there for you to get a glimpse of, to get a better idea about. So for example, O negative can donate to all blood groups because it's got no antigens at all, neither the A antigen, nor the B antigen, nor the RH antigen, which means it can donate to any blood group. And hence, we call O negative as the universal donor. Okay, always remember that. Likewise, AB positive can receive from all, because it wouldn't have antibodies against A, B, or against Rh, because it has all these three antigens on the surface of its own RBCs. And as a result, AB positive is called universal recipient. Okay, do remember this. Very, very important for you to know that. Now coming to the structure of the heart. Of course, our heart has got 4 chambers, which are 2 upper atria and the 2 lower ventricles, the right and left atria and ventricles. Talking about the blood vessels, there are 3 major kinds of them, which are the arteries, veins, and the capillaries. Okay, so let's have a look at them just for you to know on a comparative basis, children. In section B, in the diagram-based question section, I've seen several past year's papers asking questions based on this particular diagram, artery, vein, and capillary. You wouldn't be given the information of what is what. Only the images might be given to you, and you might be expected to answer questions based on these images. So you must know that the artery is the one which has got a thick wall, whereas a vein would have a very thin wall, relatively very thin wall. Capillary would have an extremely thin wall, and its diameter would also be very, very small. A very small lumen, which is the hollow inside it. Okay. Now, of course, keep in mind, this is about the structure. And as far as the function is concerned, do remember that arteries typically carry oxygenated blood from the heart to the body, while veins carry deoxygenated blood from the body to the heart. Arteries always carry blood away from the heart. A stands for away. Okay. As far as the oxygenated and deoxygenated is concerned, the only exception would be the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein, as far as oxygenated and deoxygenated are concerned. But even they carry blood away and to the heart, away from and to the heart, respectively. Okay. The universal rule is that all arteries carry blood away and all veins carry blood towards the heart. Okay. That's about it. And as far as capillaries are concerned, they are very, very thin walled. They lie between arteries and veins. They help in exchange of nutrients, gases, ions, and a lot of other substances between the blood capillaries and your cells and tissues. Okay. Now, children, let's take a very quick break before we move ahead. Do keep in mind that we are already in the month of January, beginning of a new year and the beginning of a lot of hopes and expectations, and look up for fresh inspiration. I think that feeling of newness, as we can possibly call it, is something that really I don't know how to describe it, but it's really good. So do remember that you definitely have the opportunity of scoring 100% marks and gaining 100% knowledge. Well, how do you do this? And why do you have to do this? Well, children, always remember, you guys are in classes 9 and 10, most likely. If you have subscribed to the channel, Vedantu 9th and 10th English, most likely you guys are in classes 9 or 10. Well, I do have children who are regulars here, despite being in classes 7 and 8, but that's all right. Apart from that, majority, I guess, 9 and 10, do have the seriousness that these 2 years are very, very crucial when it comes to determining the quality of your future. I'm not saying be bookworms and stay inside books, spend your life inside books for the next 2 years. No, that is not what I'm saying. But rather, do remember, learning with fun is all that we believe in at Vedantu. And you have the opportunity to learn like that right now without taking extra tension, without taking extra stress. Forget about all that. Learning has to naturally happen, and that will naturally happen if you're learning with fun. And that's exactly why I'm telling you about this. At Vedantu, you can be part of unlimited live classes with fun and high-level quizzes. You can compete with students across the country, across the world, and that will help you boost your confidence. And children, in case there's any session that you are unable to attend when it's happening live, the interactive replay is just the thing for you. Live quizzes and leaderboards would still be there, so that it feels, you just get the feeling of attending a live session. Of course, if you can make it when the session is happening live, well and good. But it's quite natural. You may miss it because you might have to attend other classes, maybe as part of school, or you may have to attend other subject teachers' classes, whatever the reason may be. Always remember, even the replay is a lot of fun here. Okay. Well, of course, after every session, you also get to download the handwritten notes of master teachers, and all your doubts would be solved in class by your class teachers and master teachers. And of course, session assignments and the chapter assignments and chapter tests, all of these are guaranteed to make you better prepared by the time your exams come. Right, children? So, and of course, before I forget, let me also tell you that those of you who are registered for these courses get our 5,000 plus micro courses available for free, and all the crash courses also, because it comes as part of this. Okay. So what about the pricing aspect of it, children? Vedantu always believes that less has to be more, in the sense more classes would mean lesser price. Okay, right. So I will explain that to you in case you're confused. But remember, children, there's a link given in the description box below and the pinned comment. You can just click on that and apply the coupon code AMBPRO before it gets late, because application of that code will help you access these courses at amazing prices. Okay. Normally, a 1 month Vedantu Pro subscription, which means in a 30-day period, in a 30-day subscription, you get access to unlimited sessions of physics, chemistry, biology, maths, social studies, and English. Everything is taken care of, okay? Because we totally believe that it's not just science and maths, unlike many parents and students do. Children, always remember, English and social are equally important, and of course your language is also equal importance to every subject is super duper crucial. It's a very simple secret to help you score well for your final exams. So that's why here we give you all of this at just 2,699 per month. And for those of you who apply the coupon code AMBPRO, we give it to you at a lower price, 2,159. And for a 3-month subscription, because your exams are still a few months away, right? Of course, we are not sure considering the situation now. Hopefully, it's going to be happening within the next 4 or 5 months or so. But whatever it is, if you want to stay tension-free for the next 3 months, opt for the 3-month subscription, because this, if you just go down to calculate the per month cost in the 5,599, this would be even lower priced than this. Divide this by 3 and you will know, right? So 5,599 for 3 months. So is it still making sense to you? In case it's not, here is my explanation for you. The best way to calculate it is to check out the per class price. The per session price, okay, would be 2,159 by 200 for a 1-month subscription, and 5,599 by 600 for a 3-month subscription, because you can access 200 and 600 live sessions respectively in these two, if not more. At least 200 live sessions you can attend in 1 month, as in you would be eligible to attend that many. Okay, so this comes down to rupees 11 per session. Isn't that just wonderful? And come to the 3-month subscription, it's coming down to rupees 9 per session. Well, I personally, as a parent and as a teacher, I think this is wonderfully priced, because it's even more reasonably priced, as we always say, than your favorite lace packet or your favorite snack packet, whatever it may be. In my case, it's cheaply priced than my favorite chocolate bars. So definitely getting knowledge at quality knowledge and information at such a reasonable price, children, make the best use of it before it gets late. On the eve of the exam, I don't want you all to think about it, oh, I should have given it a thought back then when Ambika ma'am told me in the month of Jan. No, I don't want you all to regret later on. So right now, make the best decision. Okay, so now I've given you all that you have to know. Make an informed choice, completely up to you. Okay, coming back to the structure of the heart. I've told you about the 4 chambers, and now you also need to know the valves of the heart. What are valves? Structures which prevent backflow of blood, right? So there are majorly what you have to know are the tricuspid and the bicuspid valves. Tricuspid valves are found between the right atrium and the right ventricle. So right atrium, tricuspid valve and the right ventricle, RTR, remember it that way. And this side it would be the left atrium, the bicuspid valve and the left ventricle. The bicuspid valve is also called the mitral valve. Okay, so LBL and RTR. Remember this because it's super easy to help you score marks and at the same time it's something that's confusing also. Okay, just because you forgot, like just because you did not follow one simple memory technique, I don't want you all to lose 1 or 2 marks unnecessarily like that. Every mark counts. Do have that sense in mind. Okay, right. So this is about the tricuspid and the bicuspid valves. And apart from these, there are also semilunar valves, the aortic semilunar valve and the pulmonary semilunar valve, okay, which are found at the junction between the aorta and the pulmonary artery, respectively. Okay, guys, so have this in mind. So this is just for you to get an idea about the structure of the human heart. Just in case a diagram-based question does come from this, you must know how to identify each valve and how to identify each blood vessel here. Okay, so the right atrium, the left atrium, the right ventricle, the left ventricle, and the valves are all mentioned there. The pulmonary valve, the mitral valve, the tricuspid and the aortic, everything mentioned there. And the major blood vessels, vena cavae, which bring blood into the right side of the heart, the aorta, which pumps oxygenated blood from the heart to the different parts of the body, and of course pulmonary artery and vein, which hold a very, very special place. Okay, so just for you to revise quickly, I've also put in the order of blood flow in the heart here so that the schematic representation is going to be a lot easier for you. Okay, guys, so have a look at it. The right atrium, the tricuspid valve, and then the right ventricle, pulmonic valve, and then the pulmonary arteries. Again, it goes to the pulmonic veins or the pulmonary veins coming into the left atrium, mitral valve and left ventricle, and then through the aortic valve, aorta, to the rest of the body. So I'll just add here to the rest of the body. Okay, and in this case, it comes from the body. Right, guys? Deoxygenated blood here. And here it's oxygenated blood, which is reaching the rest of the body. Okay? All right. Now coming to the overview of double circulation. This is put in only for revision purposes. Children, I would strongly suggest it must be this schematic diagram should be a part of your own handwritten notes. Okay? If at all you have the habit of making your own notes, the best way to check if you've understood this concept well is to see if you're able to make a schematic flow diagram from your memory. If you can, great, you're on the right track. You definitely know this well enough. Okay, so this also, just for you to get an idea about in the last minute, how exactly does blood flow? Superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, bring it to the right atrium, and how does it flow through your heart to the rest of the body? Okay, right. Now coming to the conduction of impulses in the human heart, there are 4 major terms you need to know here, which are the sinoatrial node, which is called the pacemaker of your heart. Okay, sinoatrial node, which is right here, and then there is the atrioventricular node, followed by the His bundle, which branches out into the right and left bundle branches, which branch off further into the Purkinje fibers. Okay, they help in the self-excitatory function of the human heart. So it all originates at the SA node, the sinoatrial node, which is called the pacemaker. And from there, the electrical impulses would spread throughout the atria, and this would cause the atria to contract and expel its blood into the ventricles. Okay, and then, of course, the electrical impulses are spreading further from the bundle branches throughout the right and left ventricles, and ultimately it causes the ventricles to contract, expel their volume of blood out of the heart. Right? So that's about the conduction of impulses in the human heart. Now coming to the sounds of the heart. Remember, there are 2 major sounds which you have to know, lub and dub. Lub, which is caused by closing of the valves leading to the ventricles, which means the right and left side, right? The RTR, remember the tricuspid valve, and the LBL, the bicuspid valve. Closure of those valves causes the lub sound. And Closure of the semilunar valves would cause the dub sound. Lup, dub, lup, dub. That's how the heartbeat sounds occur. So yes, the heartbeat would include two major phases, which are systole and diastole. Systole would mean contraction, diastole would mean relaxation. Okay, that's about it. All right. Now coming to the concept of blood pressure. Now what exactly is blood pressure? The pressure which is exerted by the flowing blood on the arterial walls. That's it. Okay, this is what we call blood pressure. There are two limits to it, the upper limit and the lower limit. Upper limit is the systolic pressure. Okay, and the lower limit would be the diastolic pressure. Okay, but when do they occur? Systolic pressure occurs when fresh blood is pushing through the artery because of ventricular contraction. When your ventricles contract, blood pushes through the arteries. That causes systolic pressure. And diastolic pressure is recorded when the wave has passed over. So this is the lower limit, 120/80. You must have heard about it, right? Okay. So this is the range. These are the ranges of blood pressure. The normal range, which is normally systolic, would be less than 120. Diastolic would normally be within 80. If it's elevated, what should the values be? And what about hypertension stage 1, stage 2, and a hypertensive crisis? This is just there for you to know. Okay, just in case any application-based question does come up in your exam, you must be familiar with these values. Okay, and then coming to pulse. We all know that the arteries have got highly elastic and muscular walls. The walls of the artery would get distended every time blood gets forced through it, right? Because of contraction of the heart. So how exactly would you measure pulse? Now, pulse is actually equal to heartbeat. Counting pulse is pretty much counting your heartbeat. And that's why in places like these, your wrist in this place, or in certain places like these, right, or sides of your forehead, there are certain areas where your pulse can be really felt very well, right? So also keep in mind that on exercise and strong emotions, pulse rate would increase. You must have experienced it yourself as well. Okay, so then coming towards the end of the chapter, we have also discussed the concept of portal system, which basically is simply put a system of capillaries, as in beginning in a set of capillaries and conveyed to a second set of capillaries before it returns to the regular systemic circulation. This is the portal system. Hepatic portal system is the most important one according to your syllabus. Okay, so this is how the hepatic portal system works. The stomach and the intestine, from there the nutrients and toxins are absorbed. That forms your first capillary blood. Okay, the first capillary blood here. Through the hepatic portal vein, they get carried to the second capillary blood, which is the liver sinusoids. Okay, so right there in the hepatocytes, all of these are conveyed, and the nutrients and toxins would leave. All the detoxification process would occur, and ultimately into the hepatic vein it would pass, and through it would enter into the regular venous blood circulation. Through the inferior vena cava, it then enters into your heart. This is how hepatic portal system works. So basically, starts at your stomach and intestine in this case and ends in your liver before it joins your heart. Normally from the different body parts, veins collected and conveyed to your heart directly. But in the case of hepatic portal system, there is the hepatic portal vein which conveys it to the liver first, and only then it does a bit of job there, and only then it conveys it to the heart. And so it acts like an assistant to your main circulatory system. So this is an overview of the hepatic portal system. Once again for you, products of digestion are absorbed into the capillaries within the villi of the small intestine. Second step would be the digested food molecules. They travel through the hepatic portal veins into the liver. Step 3 would be liver monitors the blood contents, right? That's why the liver is like a VIP in your body. And then the hepatic veins deliver blood to the regular circulatory system. But what are the major functions of it? What is the significance of it? It helps in monitoring glucose levels in your blood. Very important. Secondly, it helps in a lot of detoxification process, detoxification of a lot of substances absorbed in the blood, because the liver is there to help out in that. And thirdly, when all this happens, the meaning is that it is reducing the burden on your heart. So obviously hepatic portal system is very, very useful to our body. Okay. Then we also have discussed in the chapter the concept of lymph, right? So tissue fluid, what does it do? Tissue fluid, which is like the fluid which flows around random spaces outside your blood capillaries in between different cells and tissues of your body, right? That is tissue fluid. That would enter into minute channels, not just by itself, along with certain blood components. As you see here, when blood flows through the blood vessels under very high pressure, through the tiny pores along the walls of the blood vessels, some bits of the blood, like the plasma and WBCs, may ooze out. So they become part of the tissue fluid. The tissue fluid may then enter minute channels, which are called lymph vessels now. Okay, now this fluid is now, once it enters into the lymph vessel, we now call it lymph. Okay, so formation of lymph is pretty much this. I think I've told you this already. High pressure blood flowing in the capillary, and then some particles pass through the capillary wall, right? And they become a part of the tissue fluid, and ultimately, as you can see, they would form lymph. Once they enter into the lymph vessel, they would form what we call lymph. Okay, ultimately they would join back into regular circulation. That's a different thing. Now lymph is able to move through the lymphatic vessels because of muscle contraction, because of all the contraction of the muscles surrounding the lymph vessels. Okay, and how exactly does it flow? The lymphatic capillaries, lymphatic vessels, and then the lymphatic nodes where a lot of filtration job happens. Okay, and then lymphatic vessels again forms the lymphatic trunk, then the lymph duct, again a huge lymph duct, and joins back into the major anterior vein, which is very, very close to its entry in the right auricle, enters back into regular circulation. This is how lymph movement occurs. Basically, it helps in removing a lot of infectious substances which may otherwise have gone as part of your regular blood circulation. So what does your lymph contain? This is also important for you to know, the comparison between lymph and blood. Now, lymph contains a non-cellular and a cellular part, just like blood, but the cellular part of lymph mainly contains lymphocytes. It contains only leukocytes, no platelets, no RBCs, because they are generally too big to pass through the pores of your blood vessels. This is why they couldn't become a part of the lymph. Okay, so it's mainly only the lymphocytes, which are a type of white blood cells. Then coming to the non-cellular part, majorly it's going to be water and 6% solids, which would include proteins, fats, carbs, enzymes, antibodies, and a lot more. Okay, so this is part of the lymph. And then the last part of the chapter, which is the spleen, which is a very large lymphatic organ. You can say that it's roughly the size of a clenched fist. And talking about the appearance, it's about reddish brown in color. And where would you find the spleen? As you can see in this image here, it is situated in your abdominal region, right behind the stomach and just above the left kidney. Okay, this is where your spleen is. And it performs a very, very important function in your body, acts as a blood reservoir, and because of acting as a blood reservoir, it provides blood during emergency situations like hemorrhage or any kind of physical or emotional stress, or even like carbon monoxide poisoning, and a lot more. Secondly, it acts as a cell maker because it produces lymphocytes and various other blood cells. Thirdly, it acts as a cell destroyer because worn out or used up or old red blood cells they get destroyed in the spleen and in the liver. And as a result, we may also call the spleen and liver the graveyard of RBCs. Okay. And the fourth point is that it can help in making red blood cells in embryonic stages. Okay. So that is how important the spleen is in our body. Formation of blood cells and also in helping in immunity to a great extent. All right. So yes, let me remind you that we have now revised all of these chapters. You can clap for yourselves. Yes, guys, we are now on the track. I think we have discussed pretty much everything in the chapter circulatory system. And let me remind you, Vedantu Pro subscription, the offers are still on. So apply the coupon code AMBPRO and do not miss out on any of the amazing stuff we have to offer you there. Right, guys? And if you have enjoyed the session, if you have found it useful, please click on the like button right now before you leave, and share it with all your class 10 ICSE friends, children. Trust me, the one shot series, if I were in your position, if I was the student in your position, I would have loved a series like this, right? On the eve of the exam, I remember, like in my childhood, I have quite often wondered, wow, if there was somebody who could just sit next to me and help me revise the entire chapter in like 1 hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes, how nice it would have been. So, children, please share it with all your ICSE friends. Definitely sharing is caring. It's a very important value that all of us must have. And stay subscribed, because we will be coming up with a lot more apart from bio bites and one shot series in the days and weeks to come, right, guys? And Instagram as well, keep following me, Ambika_Vedantu. Just search for it if you're active on Instagram, and even there we put up a lot of useful posts for you on a regular basis. Right, guys? And until we meet again, stay home, stay happy, and stay safe. This is Ambika signing off. Bye bye.